welcome in to a new edition of Bullet Points 716. I'm one of your hosts today, Kevin Messeri, here with Mike Bunt, down on the ground floor of the preseason exhibition game yesterday against newly team with 20 players, apparently, Medaille College. It's a battle of the Messeris. My wife went to Medaille. I went to UB, obviously. So it was a battle of the alumni here in our household. It was really good insight into that game, Mike. A lot of good things to see. We got to take a firsthand look out of this program. We do have a preview show coming up, especially May coming up soon next week. So watch out for that. As always, this show is brought to you by Hartman's. Get out there to the best booze in Buffalo. Try their tap room. Right, Mike's already got it ready. Get out there, Hartman's Distillery, one of the best in Buffalo area. So give that a try. But Mike, we got some basketball to talk about. We got a preview show to do. Really great content all season in the basketball season for presumably top of the MAC team, top 60 team. A lot of good things to on the horizon. This is the year we will work for, Mike.
Yeah, there's a lot of expectations for this season. We've waited 3 years for UB to get back to this level where we have high expectations of them making that NCAA tournament. We had hopes the last couple of years, but this year it's really more expectations. So a lot to digest, and I'm excited to preview the upcoming season for the UB Bulls.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very upperclassman heavy team. 9 seniors, 7 playable seniors. Two of them being Bivens and Dom Johnson. So we'll see, if they present themselves. I wouldn't think so. So 7 seniors, 2 juniors in Hardnett and Perry, newcomer and Perry guy. We've liked a little bit that we've seen. And then outside of that, only one really real sophomore in Skogman. And then a couple of interesting freshmen that have come in this season, Mike. So really senior heavy. This is the year. Obviously, there's a COVID year that happened, so we don't know. Could all 7 leave? A couple of them have to, but they're still out on the fold that any of only really Mbala, Sagu, or Janathan Williams. Any of the 3 could stay, presumably. It is in the cards if one of them decided to stay. I'm not too sure about that, but the rest do have to leave. So, you have Maceo Jack, a brand new guard from George Washington, the A10, son of UB women's coach, Coach Jack. So that's going to be a cool addition for the team. He played well. He's a lean, really good shooting guard, can play pretty much everywhere. He's going to be a slasher. He's going to be able to hit at a high clip. So he's going to be a welcome addition to a team. You could have definitely used him last year. So he's going to be a nice addition. So we got obviously the aforementioned Ty Perry, a junior coming in, 3 years at Fordham, another A10. Now, neither of them were the best A10 school. Mike probably knows a little bit about the A10 than I do. But 2 players that did contribute that do have a lot to go with on this UB team. So a couple of key players. They didn't have that depth last year there, Mike. So 2 additions right there off the top that the team that kind of take them to the next level. Really only gradually David Nickelberry, a guy that disappointed in his UB career, and then maybe one of the better players ever in Javon Graves. But those are 2 immediate additions that really help out the team right away that should see pretty good minutes, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. The key to this season will be how the depth of UB performs. And the one thing that's really nice is that you expect the Bulls to get a lot of quality minutes off the bench. This is a team that should be around 10 deep, which is very hard to say. You don't say that much about mid-major squads across the country. Starting lineup, solid as always. You got the big 3 in Rondo, Janathan, Mbala, Maceo Jack. Nice addition to that lineup. Brock Bertram, it doesn't really matter to me if he's starting or off the bench. He plays a purpose. He's going to get some minutes, and I think he's really rounded his game to the point where he's actually a positive on the court. The first couple of years was very raw, looked out of place. I think he actually is a solid player now, or could be a decent player for UB. Off the bench, there's so much. You got Curtis Jones as the backup point guard this season. Ty Perry is what I've been told by some close to the UB program, a Dante Carruthers-like player. He's going to play with a lot of intensity. Can get at you on the defensive side.
They're going to like him.
Can attack the hoop. Dante Carruthers is a hell of a player, so you don't want to elevate him to that level yet, but has had some success in the past at Fordham. And then you keep it running with the forwards. You got Hardnett, as you mentioned. You got Trayvon Fagan returning, so they had some depth at forward. A big one is going to be David Skogman. Now, he's a redshirt sophomore, was highly regarded out of high school. He's a hell of a shooter. He can hit the three ball, can extend defenses, and he also showed the other day that he can get his boards, had 10 rebounds against Medaille. So that's a nice sign. And then you got the freshman class that I think is one of the better classes that UB has had in recent memory. Obviously, you got to see how it plays out on the court. There's been hype in the past only to be let down or see people leave the program. But when you look at Khalil Mading, that guy has length and he has some nice athleticism. He's a stick, very skinny guy, but 6'9" with his wingspan looks like it's over 7 feet. Had offers from power programs like Clemson and Providence, and we saw a little bit of his ability against Medaille. He had a couple blocks where he just put his hands up in the air. He blocked a 3-point shot, made players readjust when they're coming inside. And then he had a monster slam. Already has a SportsCenter top 10 play, one game into his UB career. Kid-trail blocker, tons of athleticism, can take it to the hoop. Struggled to finish, but you can see the ability is there. And then there's Williamson, who we're probably not going to see too much of this year if what I've been told is accurate. Some people think he's a redshirt candidate. They've been dealing with some injuries supposedly, but don't want to say anything too soon because there's a lot to play. But when was the last time we had this many names to talk about? It's an encouraging sign, and I think it's going to be a big factor in why this team should be able to take it to the next level.
Big note on Blocker that UB stole him from St. Bonaventure. So there's good local presence there. Wanted by Kansas State, Siena, UNLV. So some good schools there. Blocker's a good name to get used to. Saw yesterday of being probably one of the best players on the court. Can he reel it in and become a player in his freshman year? That's what we're going to need to see, Mike. We're going to need to see that finishing ability, slashing ability, ability to shoot, ability to defend. We'll see what we get out of Cottrell Blocker, but highly regarded. UB comes into the number one class in the MAC per 247. So, Quell Madding is definitely going to be an addition. Why? We saw why yesterday, Mike, of the things that he's going to be able to do for this program. Curtis Jones, a guy we really haven't talked about from Minneapolis, Minnesota, 6'5" point guard. I mean, he's going to have a little bit more length than your starter. So there's going to be some things to like. I mean, these are future 4 freshmen, and you don't want to lose any of them because how big of a role are they going to have? How big of a role did Janathan have as a freshman? Not big. He looked raw. And he's one of UB's best players ever. One of best recruit ever. If he ends up being UB's best player ever, we're not sure yet. I mean, this is a big season.
I think it's safe to say he's already.
Is he going to be a senior leader that we've seen some people fail at in the past? We've seen some not fail at. So this is a big season to see where he finishes on UB's overall list and does have the option to come back. So I think he's too good to. But I mean, I don't know. We've seen players across the mat come back. Besides Jason Preston, a guy that got drafted. You can really unless you're drafted, that's fine. Totally am with you. But if you're not drafted, I don't know. We'll see. But Janathan Williams does have that opportunity, is one of UB's best players, and will end up on the best players at UB's list. Great recruit. But main point of this, Mike, being you don't know what you're going to get freshman year, and we just need to keep them involved in the program, learning from some of these seniors. Blocker, Curtis Jones, Madding, Williamson. To a lesser extent, you have Skogman, a sophomore. But those 5 guys, some of them are some of the best recruits UB has had. Madding and Skogman are in the top 5, believe it or not. So these are guys that you need to have flourish right now. And Williamson's another one. Blocker's another one. These are names that is the future of this program. You don't want to see him leave like we saw Chance Robinson leave. A highly regarded, played one game, was like, yeah, I'm out, and just dipped back home. Have that.
There's other circumstances with that.
I've heard some things inside the program from people, but the point is well received. You need to
in order to build a program, you need to have
important
high schoolers come in that you can keep. And it's an issue throughout college sports right now with the transfer portal. Some players, if they don't get the playing time or success right away, they bail at first opportunity. You would hope with the players coming in here that they would understand that they are playing for what is one of the top mid-majors in the country, a team that has
preseason. It is for sure
a well-established starting lineup and a good bench already. So you'd hope that the players will be a little bit patient and not expect a ton of playing time right away. You can't always get what you want, but I think the important thing is right now is that I think Madding, I got to get the correct pronunciation.
They were saying Madding on the ESPN broadcast.
They were saying Madding on the broadcast. Okay. I think he's going to see his minutes. Is he going to see 10, 15 minutes, or is he going to see 5, 6 minutes? I don't know. I think early on it's probably going to be sparingly, but I think he's going to get some opportunities to show himself early on in the non-conference just because of what he could bring with his length alone. Blocker, while I think he might have a tremendous upside on UB, they waited till the midway point of the second half to have him come into a game they were winning by 30 at halftime against Madai. I would tend to believe that the blocker is going to take a little bit longer to earn his time, while Madding is going to be a little bit more part of the rotation in the beginning parts of the season. But you know what? If this UB team ends up being as good as I think they'll be, maybe they'll be in some blowouts, and maybe they'll have a chance to get both in the game. They're playing a couple D3 schools at home, so those would be two really great opportunities to get Madding and blocker maybe 20 plus minutes, assuming that you can get out to a 25, 30-point game when you're playing Point Park in St. John Fisher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm look. This is a team that you built for, and I'm going to say we've said this on our, in our edition coming up here. The Mike's going to be releasing next Monday. Look out for that. This is the year you built out for, right? This is the year that you were promised as a UB basketball fan. This is what it all came down to. What was all the talk about? We didn't lose anybody. That was the feel around the program when Nate Oates left for Alabama. It was keep it together, keep the core players, Segu and Janathan Williams, and keep this thing going. Get it early, recruit an Imbala, and have him be part of the real feel. Hardnett to a lesser extent, but he's still a player that's really the only bridge player they have, Mike, between freshmen and seniors. I mean, it's really Hardnett and whatever you would consider Skogman. I'd almost put Skogman more in the freshman camp, but he does have a couple years under his belt. Really, the only bridge players are those two. Like, there's no
Perry,
other.
And Perry.
And Perry, because he does have junior eligibility. Technically, by old standards, is a grad senior. By old metrics, it would have to be a senior transfer, but does get the COVID year. Did play 3 years. So in experience, really a senior. Will get to play again next year. So I still will consider him more of a senior for purposes of this discussion, not eligibility. That there's really a one bridge player, and it's really Hardnett and Skogman. Like, I mean, they're all forwards too. So it's a really interesting debate here. Like, they have the young class coming in that has to learn quick, because what does that mean next year, Mike? It's literally going to be all sophomores. The team's going to be all sophomores. And then Perry and Scott.
On paper, unless they get some transfers, which I would almost say that's the expectation at this point. I would be highly surprised if there's not
the freshman route,
a transfer or two from a similar type A10, maybe a poor power conference team. I would almost expect there has to be a transfer or two that's going to come in. That's just part of how you recruit now.
And if you get some wins and you do some things, that's how good your recruit will be. That's why you're able to score an Imbala. You're able to say, keep this thing going. We lost some players. Josh, you can come in and start on a really good program right now. Come in, based on how good your team is and how good you do is how good those transfers are going to be. Are you going to be able to still pluck A10 players or higher? or you're going to have to look to other sides of basketball, go the JUCO route, what Echoes had to do in his early days. So, how good they do here. What?
The Kent State way.
I mean, it's what they've done forever. I mean,
that's how they've been successful forever. And that's why it's not the way you want to run your program, but it's a good reason why they don't ever have losing seasons. They have their resources or lack thereof, and they do what they need to do. One thing I do want to say about expectations, this team has a lot of confidence in themselves, and I know that probably sounds like a normal thing to say about 99% of basketball programs in the country, but there's a couple signs that would indicate that it's not an irrational confidence and that they'll be able to follow through. First thing, somebody told me, unless you're like a SWAC or a MEAC program, you can tell a lot about what a mid-major feels about itself by the schedule that it makes. And you look at this schedule for UB, and it is definitely the type of schedule that the Bulls are set up to have a resume at the end of the year. Michigan was the only top 25 team outside of Bono, which is a local team, that would take on UB. They tried desperately to schedule a ton of big programs, but Michigan was the one that bit. Western Kentucky and North Texas are both solid programs that play in a dying Conference USA, but Western Kentucky is a solid basketball school. North Texas won the conference last year with a couple former UB players. You have other big games as well, UC Irvine. And it's interesting because a lot of people are upset with the home schedule, and rightfully so. There's not many exciting games at home. But in a way, strategically, it's smart that UB scheduled a D3 school and an NAIA school. It doesn't hurt them in the net rankings. It doesn't hurt their profile. Well, if they would have played a lower level D1 team at home, they would have had to probably pay 4 times the amount of money to bring the team to Buffalo, and it would have hurt their resume, even if they won comfortably. And you just look at it, it's set up for a very good year. And if they can get an upset or two against Bana and win those road games against WKU and North Texas, they're going to have they could have a great season. I talked to Janathan before, just talked to Janathan the other day. He said the goal is to go to the Sweet 16. We want to get back there. I'm not saying personally that I believe that they'll get there, but this team thinks that they have a chance. And Janathan and Rondo were part of the team that went to the second round and lost to Texas Tech. They've been there. They know what it takes. They're putting the work in. And I think the signs early on are this could be one of those 25-plus win teams that could leave its mark on the history of the program.
It's possible. And
I'm not going to guarantee it, but they seem to believe that they can do it.
Okay, that's fair. And I mean, you look around the MAC and the competition level's low. I mean, it's down in my opinion. Like, I think I've seen better MAC schools in my day. Ohio's going to put up a competition. Kent State's going to do their recruiting thing. They actually did kind of the same thing, but they don't have the core players. They went out and got a guy named DJ Johnson from the A10 as well, from Rhode Island. So like they kind of went out and did the same type of thing, with their recruiting strategy. And then they got a guy named Andrew Garcia over there transferring in too. He's from Georgia. And then they got another player by the name from Nigeria, actually. And he's coming in from Vanderbilt, excuse me. So they went and got in a couple of transfers. And that's what Kent State's going to do, but they don't have the core players there. There's really
Toledo finished 17th in the mid-major top 25. So Toledo actually has some outside hype. Ohio is going to be solid. But you're right. It looks like right now you're basically looking at UB as the clear favorite. Most people are going to look at the Bobcats as the number 2. Toledo is probably the number 3. And Akron and Kent, you can't ever count.
They're always 4 and 5, always.
Yeah, you can't ever count them out. But since Akron lost Dan Brott, they're just not the same team. John Gross, I love him from my days at Ohio. Lots of intensity. Has had some special teams in the past. But Akron and Kent, they're good programs. But I remember when I grew up as a basketball fan, there was something special about them. Kent was always one of those top 10 mid-major programs every year. You would see in the bracket buster. It was an intimidating place to play. They still had that magic post-Elite Eight run with Jim Christian leading the way. In Akron, a decade later, Keith Dambrot, always a tough place to play, tough environment, scary place, and a lot of high-level recruits. They've both lost their luster. They should be 18 to 22 wins every year, but they don't have the programs that you expect them to play at the elite level that you think UB will be at this season.
Yeah, I mean, as you look at Akron's roster too, what's interesting to them is they got a transfer in conference 7th-year player in KJ Walton. We talked about this a little bit offline. Crazy. Like, he's going to turn 26 in 2022. Like, that's insane. Really good MAC player, 17 points last year in conference. Like I said, Ball from Ball State. We're going to basically their best player. So we're going to see what he's able to do. They got another interesting player from USF from South Florida. So, he's probably going to be in the running for their best player. Xavier Castaneda. He's a 9-point player for USF. So a couple transfers. They just don't have any consistency. They have the Trimbles that have been there for a little bit, transfer from Dayton, I believe, previous to last year.
That's the thing. It's a lack of continuity. Like, it's good to get impact transfers. They help your team. But you need to have a core in place and then add an impact transfer. You don't want to just have your entire makeup of your team patching holes every year with transfers. And that's a big reason why I think Buffalo has been more successful in the tournament, and why Ohio in the past has had success in the tournament. You think about what UB did with CJ Massenberg. They had Massenberg, they had Jeremy Harris, they had Nick Perkins. Well, it was Massenberg and Perkins, but Jeremy Harris was the JUCO transfer that got them over the top with Wes Clark. But it was always Massenberg's team, and Perkins was the number 2. Those are transfers that added on top of something that was already special. You look at this year with Buffalo, you got Segu, you have Williams. Those are the 2 guys that built this team. They've been playing together for 4 years. You have Mbala, who's been there now for a 3rd year. And then you add transfers like Maceo Jack. Like, Buffalo is doing it the right way. They have the continuity. They have their homegrown players as the stars, and they're adding on top of it. And I think that's the big difference between what Kent does and what UB does. I think UB is better at building a homegrown talent and keeping it. The fact that Janathan Williams is in his 4th year at UB, I know we've talked about this in the past, Kev. It's remarkable. This is the guy that was a top 150 recruit that offers from Syracuse and other top 25 programs, and he's stuck at UB for all 4 years. And I know a lot of people would say that's the expectation. That is not the expectation in college sports nowadays. And for him to be such a highly touted player and to stay as committed as he has to the university and the area, it's truly remarkable. And you talk to him, he wants this. Like, he's working his ass off for this team to be special. And I commend him and Segu, because I think this is the year that they finally get to reap the rewards of all of their hard work.
Yeah, for sure. And, you look around the MAC and other potential favorites. You mentioned Toledo. They're a team that actually just really recruited freshmen. They got a transfer in from Boise State, a guy to really know if you're a MAC fan, in Ray J. Dennis. He's going to be probably a big piece of what Toledo does and from Boise State. But other than that, they're going to roll with their typical they're going with Saunders and Shumate and Milner and Ryan Rollins. So they do have a base, probably not a ton of depth there. Probably going to be a lot like UB's team last year, if I was to guess where Toledo will come in. And yeah, they'll probably be able to squeak out toward the top of the conference just because that's some talent there. How far can they go? I think they're going to run into some issues like UB did as they started. Like UB just couldn't come off the bench last year. They just couldn't, Mike. They ran into some – that was rare. Most teams could. Like most UB teams have been able to come off the bench and be pretty effective. Last year, they just didn't have it.
I think they had players they thought were going to step up.
They just didn't have it.
Like David Nickelberry never became the guy that people expected.
Robinson didn't come.
Yeah.
They just –
There's a lot of things that didn't work out according to plan. You didn't get Malik Zachary because – we don't want to say anything that's going to –
Zachary and Robinson both had issues.
Yeah, there was things, and then you didn't get Bruden for a whole season. So there's a lot of things.
I mean, they were rolling with 6 players.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that went into last year. You honestly, we were very hard on the team early on in the year. But hindsight, the fact that they got to where they did, the NIT and the MAC championship game and the MAC tournament. And
outside of Ohio getting hot, they almost went back. I mean,
it's kind of a miracle. It's kind of a miracle UB had the season. I do want to say one quick thing. You mentioned Toledo. Toledo is the one program in the MAC that I cannot believe they haven't had more success in the last decade or two. They've had good years here or there. They haven't won a MAC tournament in basketball, I think, in like 50 years or something like that. That program should be so much better. They're one of the bigger metro areas in the conference. They are in the state of Ohio. They have a ton of great players. You think about it, Toledo is right next to Indiana, Michigan. You got the Detroit metropolitan area. You got Fort Wayne, Indiana to recruit from. Indianapolis isn't too far away. You got Columbus. You got Cleveland. Like Toledo should be an elite MAC program year in, year out. I don't get how they're not better. Their coach, he had a couple good years right off the bat. Like he turned them around. Like they were on probation before Kowalczyk took over, but I don't know how they haven't had more success.
Yeah, and I guess you gotta, if we're talking around the MAC too for this MAC preview for UB's purposes, watch out for Miami, Ohio, a team I think got a winning vote from some coach. I think they had one championship vote, if I'm not mistaken. They return everybody. Like it's not a great team to begin with, but being able to bring back pretty much your entire team, and Isaiah Coleman lands, a guy that's been pretty successful, Delonte Brown, Dede Grant, Makai Larry, James Beck. I mean, it might not be household names to anyone who's not a Miami, Ohio fan. But I mean, with the losses in the conference, I mean, they're probably right. They're probably better than Akron. Will it work out that way? Probably not, but I wouldn't be shocked. The team is better.
And how about the move to get rid of divisions? Like Miami, Ohio has to love that. The MAC East has just been so brutal for, I would say, going on over a decade. I would probably say the last 12, 13 years, the MAC East has just been brutal. They've done comparisons where if you did the MAC East as its own conference, it would normally be around the top 10 conferences in America in RPI and now net ranking, while the MAC West would routinely be one of the bottom 10 in the country in those same metrics. You think about it, going back a decade, Akron, Kent, Buffalo, Ohio, give or take Bowling Green once in a while, Miami, same thing. Like it's a bloodbath of mid-major basketball, and the MAC West has just been the opposite. Western, Central, Eastern, you don't know what you're going to get a given year. Ball State, maybe once in every 5 years, they're a good team. Northern Illinois, they're the worst program that somehow always has Buffalo's number. But
they just had one of the best MAC players for 4 years. And he could win a game at any time. He just decided.
Like in them in Eastern Michigan, you go play on the road there, and you're playing in front of 500 people. Is
Eugene German still in college? I thought someone.
There's no way.
I mean, KJ Walton is.
But
Eugene German's in professional basketball now.
Thank God. Thank God, because Buffalo couldn't beat him.
I mean, there's games he just called game. I mean, it was impressive.
Wasn't it 20? Wasn't it?
Was already lost
tournament that NIU got to the semifinals against Bowling Green, and then Bowling Green won. If NIU would have beat Bowling Green, I mean, look out! NIU, they could have been the MAC champs that year because
UB lost.
How many times is
the 3 loss year? One of them was NIU.
Yeah, that's the one thing about the MAC that people don't get. Sometimes it's more intimidating playing in front of nobody than it is playing in front of a packed house. Those empty arenas are tough. Eastern Michigan, when they used to, I think they got rid of their coach. Did they get rid of Murphy? I think they did.
Yeah.
But when they used to have the zone with their lengthy guys and you play at their convocation center in front of literally 500 people max, some of the worst basketball games I've ever watched in my life. And it doesn't matter if it was UB, Ohio, Akron, just unbelievably horrible games. But that's MACtion. MAC
Dude, and you got to, like, if you look at the why, like, at first, I think I saw Miami getting votes, and I was like, why are they getting votes? But if you look down it, they didn't lose a single player. And unfortunately, in this conference, you might say, well, who cares? It wasn't a very good team. It's going to be enough to catapult them toward the top. So we'll see if it ends up being true. They didn't lose points. I mean, they didn't lose anything. That continuity is going to get them over 500. It's going to get them in contention for this thing. It's a team you got to be careful with. So, watch out for Miami, Ohio. They're probably a sleeper team that no one's talking about.
They weren't bad last year. They were 9-8 in conference and went 12-11. I mean, it's an okay team.
And they returned the whole team.
Yeah. I mean, there's reasons for them to be optimistic.
That's a team that you would have expected to lose a player or two, and then you're 5-15.
And this is the traditional MAC person in me, but I think the MAC is better when Miami, Ohio was good.
Okay. Well, this might be their year, kind of like we've been talking about UB. If they have podcasters out there, sorry, to not know if you do or not. If you do Miami, this is probably your year to talk about your team, because I don't think you've ever had, like, since Charlie Coles, I don't think you've ever had a team.
I miss him. I miss Charlie.
Yeah. I don't think you've ever had a team worth talking about. I'm sorry. Like, could you surprise a game or two? Probably in the last 15 years, but this is definitely a team that, if Buffalo has some injuries, some things happen, things don't come into plan, they can poke their little head up.
We'll never know where Miami would have gone in the 2020 MAC tournament. We were robbed that opportunity.
Some people act like it didn't exist. I still counted it against them. 2-3 in postseason play. Gotta have better than that, Mike.
I actually had this conversation with someone the other day, and they told me, you don't need to say it didn't happen. But the truth of it is, it doesn't matter if it happened or not, because it was never going to impact anything anyway. So they were saying, because the tournament didn't happen, who really cares? But I'm with you. It did happen. They did lose that game, and
they didn't.
It was a horrible.
Well, the thing that happened was there was a Final 8 in the MAC, and they weren't in it. Whether you lost to, Syracuse, Akron, or Miami, they weren't in the Final 8 in the MAC. Like,
is it still the Final 8 are the only teams that go to Cleveland going forward? Is that still the case?
Yeah. So since COVID, yeah, they just removed the campus games. They just said, so last year would have been the first year of just having, it's really, since that was the last play-in game, the UB Miami game. And the tournament was like, yeah, that UB team wasn't great, coming off of votes ranked, but we can't have 12 seeds knocking out our 5. Like, that just doesn't do good for them. That doesn't, you want some interesting things in conference, but that happening is not what they're looking for. They would have rather had Buffalo match up in this finals against somebody, and made a good game, even though they got what they wanted last year and didn't get a good game out of it. But they got rid of those games. It was stupid. No one was going. Like, it was a weird combination. Like, you're the 5 seed going against the 12.
If Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State end up coming to the conference, they'll have to fix that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to hit that on next year's pregame show, because I have no idea what.
They'll have to fix that, because then you're talking about, like, a 9th place team actually being, like, possibly decent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do next year. To be
honest, I guess it's still not official. I mean, I don't know if Conference USA is going to try to do a last-ditch effort to try to save.
I like their cutting the line though. Like, even if I was like, I know Ohio won once as the 9 seed. It'll never happen again, and it's only happened once. I think I've had the statistics. I just don't have them in front of me. Like under a 6 seed is like 1 in 40 or something in winning. Like it might be under a 7. It's either 6 or 7. The line's in the sand. At either I can't remember. It's under 6 or under 7. Like you just
you could chance. do. You know what you could do. You could.
I like the one.
If you have Western Middle Tennessee State, I think you have to go back to having 12 teams.
But I like that everyone had to play in the first game. There was no differences. One needs to beat the 8, even if it's UB, even if it's Toledo. One needs to beat the 8. Like, it's just what you need to do. Like,
I don't know. If you could go back to 12 teams and just have everybody start in Cleveland.
They don't have the arena for that long.
Clearly,
they would.
You can't get it for one more day?
Probably not. No.
Why not?
I don't know. Call up the MAC commissioner. Clearly, they can't. The Cavaliers are playing. I don't know.
Just have the MAC tournament in Athens, Ohio. It solves everything.
I mean, you might have a venue change if you needed to do something. Started to do stuff like that, but
I don't think they should change. The only other place MAC
3 teams in 3 days, like that'd be a 4th game in 4 days. It's just stupid anyway. So just
the only other place they could ever have the MAC tournament is Columbus. Cleveland just makes the most sense. It's the most central.
I'm fine for the conference being the MAC. I mean, you could goof me into like the top 4 making the tournament, like if you want to get crazy. But I just don't think I don't know. The line of the 9 seed, I know it's happened once in conference history. The line for me is the 8. You need to make the 8 seed.
What if Middle Tennessee State doesn't improve their basketball in the next 2 years? You want them to come to Cleveland their first year in the league. They stink right now. You want them to come.
Antoine Johnson, Western Kentucky took a couple players from UB. Well, Lamonte Bearden.
Yeah. That's actually, not to get you off topic, that's actually a funny thing because Western Kentucky is scheduled to come back to UB in 2023. But if Western Kentucky joins the conference, that'd be the year they would start in the MAC. So UB might lose a non-conference game in 2023.
That they traded, yeah.
Yeah, it's not even a guaranteed home game for UB either. They could lose the game, and then it could end up being a road game. So,
I mean, I guess they could end up pitching it to the MAC, like, hey, they said they would come here in 2023. I don't know. Not that it really matters, but I'm sure they could. The first game of that series in MAC play will probably be at Alumni Arena. I'm going to make a guess that they would say, hey, they're coming here. Or maybe that would be the year you get them twice. I don't know, because you don't play everyone twice anymore. Like UB doesn't play Ohio twice. What a benefit, I guess. You look at it both ways for the standings purposes, benefit both ways for the both teams to say, like, we only have to play each other once. Makes their schedules easier both ways.
Benefits me mentally too, so I'm good with
benefits you mentally. Ohio has to come to UB this year. So it is a win for a UB senior team to get 1 year out of Ohio, not have any lapses. But look, they're going to need to take care of them in the tournament. Whether Ohio comes in at 2 or 3, they're going to probably be on the other side of the bracket. You know, Toledo and Ohio down at the bottom right now. Maybe UB Miami 1 and 4, something like that toward the top. Maybe Akron and Kent sneaks in at 4 or 5 around there. But that's what you're kind of looking at preseason. Bowling Green, I just don't think they're going to have enough coming off of, losing Justin Turner. He was their lifeblood. They still have some players in Plowden and Diggs, Fields, but they're always very, very, very shallow. They go as far as Justin Turner took them. We'll see what Bowling Green's about. They're another always team that could be sneaky. They got an Evansville transfer. We'll see if he's any good. So Mike, action-packed pregame show. Tell us about what you got coming up for us here next week.
So we have an awesome season preview from Bullet Points, and I'm not just talking this up because I'm behind it, but we went the extra mile. This is basically a television type production that we're going to have. Kevin and myself both contributed. We went to practice the other day. I spoke to Janathan Williams, Rondo Segu, Josh Mbala, Coach Whitesell. I went to the game the next day against Madai. We have highlights. We have sound. We have Kevin with his always hot takes on fire. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then I got the entire Bullet Points crew to make their season predictions, overall record postseason. Are they going to make the NCAA tournament or the NIT? Who's the team MVP? Who's the top newcomer, most improved? So all in all, it's going to be about a 14-minute production. And I'm being serious. This is as close as it gets to being TV from our level. And I mean that. I don't care if you're covering the Bills, covering the Sabres, covering UB. We're going far above what any of these local blogs, websites, podcasts do. So really hoping to get people to check it out. We're going to post it on YouTube. I'm going to share it on message boards. I'm going to post it a million times on Twitter. So really just hoping people give it a look and that we can actually get some views on this.
And like, I really would hope Quell Mading is good, because then I could do like the mudding, da ding, da ding, da 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 ding, ding, da ding. You know, there's some potential there for some stuff there. So I want to copyright that soon. So Mike, we're looking forward to that pre-game or preseason, really all season review from you. So that should be something good that comes out for UB coverage. We'll hammer that. I'm sure that'll get a ton of eyes. You know, it'll be up on Trainwreck. It'll be up on Bullet Points, retweeted from all of our accounts, of course. So watch out for that preview. To my UB fan people, check that out as well. And, you know, we're really looking forward to bring great content. Mike will be on the floor many games, right, Mike? Tell us about, you know, what's kind of your schedule on site this year.
Well, Trainwreck is credentialed once again for the third straight season. We're just going to try to make as many games as we can go to. Obviously, got our work schedules and our personal lives, but try to make it to as many as we can. We have ability and access to talk to the players and the coaches, and UB has been very helpful throughout the years with helping us establish us and us helping to get their name and brand out there. So the one thing we take a lot of pride on is being fair and objective. We're not going to be homers. We're not going to just say positive things because that's what they want us to. We say it how we feel. And
you should know that about our show, at least, that we do say it how we feel. And sometimes, like, we will be overly positive at times. We will be overly negative at times, but we do give them a fair shake. So yeah, that should be out there. Like, there's nothing personal about anything that we say. It is our own opinions and our own thoughts and our own coverage of the team with as limited bias as we can have. It's just what we're seeing. And usually, Mike, if you're upset, I know I can speak for me, it's because we expect a top 50 program. That's it. It's not because we're, you know, ungrateful or whatever. It's we expected from Oates, you know, when we got going from back-to-back tournaments to really being the dominant force in this conference, you know, really started doing football too. We expected to be at a certain level, right? So when you drop in the hundreds and you drop in the 110s, 120s, wherever, depending on the season that you go, it's disappointing. We're expecting not to lose to Ohio, and they go, Ohio had a great team. Preston's great. You're expecting not to lose that game, though. UB came in hotter to that point. Ohio had a tournament run, don't get me wrong, but UB came in hot. They came in hot at the end of the year. They had kept winning, and Ohio took it away from them. I'm a little bit okay with that. The year before was unacceptable, though. Like, they lost to a good Ohio team. Losing to Miami at home in a campus game coming off of that year is unacceptable. And that's where you got some of the displeasure, you know, from certain people. So, yeah, it was a good point, Mike. I appreciate you saying that we are unbiased. We try, you know, we have access to the team, but at the same time, you know, we're bringing you coverage that we really feel, you know, deep down just from watching a lot of mid-major. No one watches more MAC. I can't say mid-major. I can say no one watches more MAC basketball than we do. I catch as many MAC games as I can when UB's not playing. I find it interesting. Usually by mid-season, I know each roster. Like, it's hard today because I don't know who's injured. We don't have injury reports. I don't have starting rosters. But by January, February, I'm tuned in. Like, I can tell you starting rosters from the 10 seed Western Michigan. I can tell you their best players. So that's the kind of coverage you're going to get here when we play a pregame show against Western, or we have a pregame show against Northern. You know, we'll bring you everything you need to know about mid-major basketball because we expect this UB team to be top 60. I expected even
this
higher.
This is our lives in the winter time, and we both love UB football as well. But there's a difference between UB football and UB basketball. Now, people will always say, well, UB football, they have the bowl games. Yeah, you have the bowl games. You can have a top 25 season here or there, but you will never be part of the national championship conversation. And someone can say, well, UB basketball will never be part of that conversation either. I don't care that they won't be part of the conversation. They have a chance any given year to make a run. Are they going to go to the Final Four? Am I ever going to pick that? No. But what we saw in 2018-19 was that they were one of the top 25 best teams in the country. And if they had a little bit better draw, they could have gone to the Final Four. And when you do get to the Final Four, anything is possible. Over the last decade, we have seen teams like Butler go to the national championship. We have seen teams like VCU, George Mason. The list goes on and on and on of major schools come out of nowhere and make deep runs in the NCAA tournament. And we have seen that there is a recipe to doing it right here in Buffalo. And you know what? It's not even just UB. We're seeing our own counterparts down near the Pennsylvania border start this year ranked 23rd in the country. And I know Kev doesn't like to hear that, and they're a little bit higher level in A10. But the fact of the matter is we are seeing high-level basketball. And not to bore everybody, but you think about it. In NCAA D1 football, there's 130 teams. Normally, UB is going to be in the bottom 40. So you're in the bottom 33% of 130 teams. D1 basketball, you got 355 programs, and UB is normally anywhere between 80 to 110. That means even in a bad year most of the time, you're in the top third of teams in Division I basketball.
And they start KenPom at 94, Mike. That's a little lower than I would have liked.
Buffalo basketball is the closest thing to it's the third biggest thing in this area. People, obviously nothing's ever going to touch the Bills and nothing's ever going to touch the Sabres. But when you're talking about what is that next level sports that people get a lot of excitement about, and it's UB basketball. When they are good, and I'm not even saying top 25 good, when they are good, where they're a top 3 team in the MAC, go to Alumni Arena on a Saturday afternoon for an important conference game, and they get loud, and it is a fun environment. 5,000 people in that arena is more fun than any Sabres game I've been in the last 10 years. And you know what? It gets a lot more of the casual people that don't know the program in and out, but it's a fun atmosphere, and there's potential this year. And we always have to be careful, because if we say, well, UB is going to win 25 games this year, if they end up winning 18, there's going to be some casual Buffalonian who's going to be like, oh, you guys are wrong, you guys are homers, you guys are idiots. But you know what? They really do have that possibility. The year that they won 32 games, I went into that year thinking, you know what? This team could probably win 27, 28, 29 games. And they exceeded it. And I go and I'm going to just make my prediction now because we're 50 minutes into this. My official pick this year is 24-7. And that is before the MAC tournament. The only loss, I have them going 15-5 in the MAC. And the only losses I have are St. Bon in non-conference are – I got Michigan, and then I have them probably losing either St. Bonaventure or actually, was I 16-4? I might be off by a game, but 23-24 wins is right where I have them around. I think this UB team can beat St. Bonaventure. I think this Bulls team should beat Western Kentucky and North Texas. The whole question is, can you put a consistent season from start to finish? And I think this is the year – knock on wood, that they put it all together. And I really think we're about to witness a really, really fun year of UB basketball.
Yeah, I mean, they have some continuity. We've already gone through the senior level team. If they stay healthy, there's definitely some good things to look forward to. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they have 11. Is it 11 out of conference teams? So 31, right? Is that right?
Yeah, 20 conference, 11 out of
11,
conference.
yeah, 2 in Cancun, so 9 and then 2 in Cancun. Where are they? Cancun?
Yeah, I might want to change to 23-8. I
have 22 and 9.
I'll say
Yeah,
23-8.
yeah, I have 22 and 9. I think they lose a couple. I do think they'll drop a couple out of conference games. Some of them are tough. Can they get through UNT and Western Kentucky? We just talked about, Western Kentucky's favorite right as of right now, as of ESPN. I mean, it's a couple months away, but Northern Texas's favorite 63-36. So, I mean, those aren't gimme wins by any stretch of the imagination on the road too. So, did have 1 point to make about the MAC though. There is such a line in the sand. 5 MAC West schools come in under 260. You have Ball State at 260, KenPom, Eastern at 297, Central at 303, Western at 312, and Northern at 324. Mike, these are some of the worst college basketball teams.
It's there to go 17-3 in conference.
These are some of the worst college teams in the country.
The way I've always been
5
taught,
of them.
the way I've always been taught when you're picking MAC teams is that
that's so bad.
You pick them to lose 2 games against good schools. Like if you're like a team that thinks you're top 3, you'll pick them to lose 2 games against 2 of the other good schools in the league. Then you'll pick them to lose 2 games that they just blow or just don't have it. And then there's a toss-up game. So that's how I got to the 15-5. But realistically, why can't they go 17-3 in conference? They don't. Will they? Probably not. But they only play Ohio once.
I mean, you know who they scored to? Akron won. So they play everyone twice except Ohio and Akron. Favorable schedule if you're UB. Like that's what you're looking for from a UBN. That those were 2 potential losses that you could see. You're mitigating the risk down to just 2 games. Maybe let's say you drop one of those. There's no other hard games on the schedule, Mike.
How sweet would it be? We all go into this year thinking Bonna's the team to beat in Western New York, and then Buffalo proves that don't take us lightly. We end up having the special year. If they can beat, and Bonnie's fans hate me, so I don't mind saying this, but if they can beat Bonaventure and Olean, which or Allegheny, whatever they want me to say is proper, look out, just look out, and that's all I'm going to say. This year it's there for the taking. I can't wait for Michigan. I can't wait for this season to get started. It's going to be such a special year.
Okay, Mike, you heard it there from Mike. You heard my breakdowns on how poor the bottom of the MAC is. Then it gets a little bit more, Akron's kind of in their own land of in the middle, according to KenPom. Outside of that, though, you kind of have a top in Ohio and Toledo and then Buffalo above them a little bit. Then Miami and Bowling Green kind of sit there in the middle. And then you got a little lower middle, you have Kent and Akron. So it's kind of what we talked about here. KenPom kind of agrees with our sentiments that Miami might be the 4th best team in the conference per KenPom, 137. So they're starting off strong above all 3 Bowling Green, Kent and Akron. So take that for what it's worth. But you heard our MAC predictions here. Mike 15-5. I also have them at 15-5, but I think I might have another drop. I'm having them drop another game and out of conference play. So favorable schedule, not only having to play Akron and Ohio once a piece. Favorable senior heavy team. Miami's the one can rival them there. Ohio has some returning players too. That's what gets you high in the KenPom rankings, Mike. Lots to go over. Can't wait for the pre-show edition to drop, preseason edition. I'll be on foot at games occasionally throughout the season based on scheduling. Luckily for me, basketball games are at night and not noon on Saturdays every single game like UB football. So excited that, we'll be able to catch up and get through some games this season, especially, the out-of-conference schedule is not great at home. So I don't know, you might catch me up there in the early portion of the year, but more importantly, you'll catch me probably a lot during MAC play as some of this come to fruition. How important is it that, the home games are Canisius and UCI? Is that it? I mean, that might be it for home games. So
outside of Point Park and St. John Fisher. So
yikes. There it is. There's the schedule, guys. Well, actually, so they have Fisher. Is that official game?
Yeah.
Eesh. Then they have 32 because they have 2 Cancun games. So they play the winner. They play St. Louis too. They play St. Louis. Well, St. Louis could lose.
Oh, St. Louis
or who I don't even know. They play someone bad though.
Yeah.
It's like, so they're going to get another.
That's the potential for another marquee game on the schedule. If you get St. Louis.
Yeah. So there's 32 games then, actually, because you'll get that second game after the SFA game. So lots to look forward to, Mike. Lots to go down. Could be another marquee, another great game. Put it on the schedule. I think they're probably hoping that's what they get on their schedule would be UB.
Yeah,
so throw another, pretty good conference team in there, right?
They made the schedule with the expectation that they're going to be no worse than that NIT.
Yeah, this is an NIT schedule. They have the numbers. They should have the analytics that puts them in the NIT with a loss in them like they did last year, maybe even a higher seed this time. They do have the expectations to make it back to the NIT at minimum. If they do drop the game in the championship game again this year, that's their expectation. But things could happen where you never really know what could happen if you put enough wins together. I mean, it starts against Michigan. You put a road Michigan win, Mike, on your calendar.
Oh my! If they beat Michigan, we're going to start the NATO's top 25 that we did.
I mean, you're in there. I mean, you're in your votes week 1.
Yeah.
You're getting votes following that week. You take a Michigan UNT. Those aren't gimme games. UNT's been better in years past, but that's still a program. Where is it? Where are they? North Texas is. I mean, okay, 135. So they're ranking it at a MAC school right now, but that's okay. Road win against North Texas, road win against Michigan, and you got some things rumbling. You got some things brewing, definitely. So lots to look forward to, Mike. Really looking forward to your pregame show. Show us again what the show sponsor is, though.
Let's get this out. We got the Hartman's Loganberry vodka. We also have seltzers. Fun location. Make it down. Buy their products. You'll enjoy it.
Yep. There you go. You heard it from Mike. Hopefully UB adds one final A10 team to the schedule. In St. Louis, a top 100 team in a neutral floor could really help out some rankings. Lots to like on this schedule, Mike. But I'm Kevin Masseri. That's Mike Bunt. We brought you everything we had here today. And good night now.